In a few days, it's going to be December 15th, which means about 98% of the NBA is going to be eligible to be traded. And before the year started, I made a video giving you guys 20 NBA names that I think could be on the move this year potentially. So today I'm going to revisit that list and see if their stock has went up in terms of trade value, down, or stayed the same. And I'm going to sprinkle in a few names at the end as well that have kind of come up as potential trade candidates. So the first player we're going to talk about, Jonathan Kuminga. Funny enough, he's one of the players that can't be traded on December 15th. You have to wait till January for this one, given how late in the offseason he signed his deal with the Golden State Warriors. I would say Jonathan Kuminga's trade value has definitely gone down this year. He's gotten a DNP coach's decision from Steve Kerr. He's averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, shooting 43% from the field, 32% from three, and 74% from the free throw line. Basically, everything is down from last year and from his breakout year 2 years ago, and it feels like his time in Golden State is pretty much finishing up right now. Now, Kuminga doesn't have no trade value, right? He's still 23 years old that has shown potential in this league to be a crafty scorer in the half court. Given his 6'7", 225 frame, he's able to get to the rim, absorb contact, and can be this physical downhill scorer, but he definitely needs to be in a new system. I'm going to assume that when Kuminga gets traded, his numbers are going to look a lot better. He's probably going to be a little bit happier in his new environment. He has a $22.5 million contract this year. He's got a $24 million team option next year that was agreed to be ripped up by the Warriors if he was still on the Warriors, but it feels like he's going to get traded this year at the deadline. I think that if Jonathan Kuminga ends up getting traded, though, it's going to go for a little bit less than what we thought he could go for last offseason. So yeah, I'm going to say his stock is down. We got a couple Sacramento Kings to talk about here. The first one is Malik Monk. I'm also going to say that Malik Monk's stock is down. Pretty much all offseason, the Sacramento Kings were quietly trying to move Malik Monk, more so to shed some money. They wanted to go out and sign Dennis Schroeder to be the point guard for this team, and Vivek did not want to go deep into the luxury tax. Malik Monk is slated to make $18.7 million this year, $20 million in 2027, and a $21.5 million player option in 2028. So about 2.5 years left of guaranteed money for the 27-year-old that is having a down year. And you can probably say his worst year since 2021 when he was still a member of the Charlotte Hornets. He's averaging 13 points, which is the lowest it's been since 2021. He's shooting about 43% from the field. He's shooting 40% on three, but on lesser volume than it's been in the past. He's shooting about 46% on twos, which would be the lowest since his rookie year, and that came in 2018. He hasn't been involved as much in this Sacramento Kings offense. His usage rate is also the lowest it's been since 2022 when he was an LA Laker playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, who's definitely been better than Malik Monk this year. So for Sacramento and their hopes to trade away Malik Monk, I still think he'll have a market, but his value is down. And then also, I believe that Keon Ellis's value is down. I said keep an eye on Keon Ellis to be like a sneaky trade candidate this year. I would just like for any team to just bring Keon Ellis to a better environment than what's going on in Sacramento. Now, maybe us, like the online NBA community, overrates Keon Ellis a little bit too much, because it's not like he's going to come in right away and be the next Derek White or maybe be the next Marcus Smart, but I do think he could be a key contributor for a playoff team, given that he's shown 3 years in a row of being a really good three-point shooter, and he's a really good on-ball defender as well. Every team in the NBA, maybe outside the Oklahoma City Thunder, can use Keon Ellis as point of attack defense. They can use his switchability, his physicality on the perimeter, but this is probably a weird spot as well, because if his value went up, I don't think Sacramento was going to trade him, but he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and honestly at this point they may be lucky to get a couple seconds if they do trade him. I'm going to say his value is down. Man, this has not been good for the trade guys. I have another stock down, and that is going to be Kobe White of the Chicago Bulls. Kobe White has only played 7 games this year. He was hurt at the start of the year, but there's been kind of a trend since Kobe White came back. The Chicago Bulls have not been a good team whatsoever. In the 7 games that Kobe White has played in this year, the Chicago Bulls have only won 2 of those games. So they're 2-5 in the 7 games Kobe White has played, and he's averaging around 22 points, 5.5 assists, 3 rebounds a night, shooting 43% from the field, 30% from three, and 80% from the free throw line. And I do feel like Kobe White would still be extremely valuable to a team looking for that secondary or more so tertiary shot creator in the half court. I just think the emergence of Josh Giddey this year maybe tells the front office that that is going to be the point guard we are going to build around going forward. You can maybe commit long-term money to Kobe White and Josh Giddey, but you're definitely going to have not the best defensive backcourt in the world. So I would say Kobe White is still in line to potentially get traded this year, but I would say his stock is down. He'd still fetch Chicago a good return though. Now, I think it's still going to be tough for CJ McCollum to get moved this year just because he's making over $30 million, and maybe a team just can't make anything work, and the LA Lakers throw Maxi Kleber, Jared Vanderbilt, and Gabe Vincent at the Wizards with the second rounder, and sure, CJ McCollum could be a Laker, but I think he's not going to have a very robust market. But McCollum has been good this year. He's averaging about 18.5 points, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's basically the same CJ McCollum that we've seen this decade. He's somebody that is going to be a very hot 3-point shooter. He's shooting 40% from 3, like I said, on 7.5 attempts per game. He could be a solid combo guard. He's not the best defender in the world. He's not the best at the rim finisher and really hasn't been since 2022. And he can be a good scorer for you if he's the 5th or 4th option in your starting 5, or maybe a 6th man for a contending team. I'll say his value is up, but I still feel like he's going to be a buyout guy. Now, I thought there was a chance the Phoenix Suns were not going to be good this year. I don't really think that was a hot take in the offseason, and I thought it was going to make a ton of sense in what was going to be pretty much a seller's market to trade away Dillon Brooks, because I think there would be so many bidders for somebody that could be your main defender on the perimeter, that could take the toughest assignment every single night, and could also be a good 3-point shooter and really just elevate your floor. I think Dillon Brooks has been way too good this year for the Phoenix Suns to even think about trading him. And the Suns have been good this year. They could definitely make the playoffs. They may look to be more aggressive rather than selling at the deadline. Dillon Brooks is averaging 21 points this year, 3 rebounds, 44% from the field, 31% from 3, which isn't the greatest, but he is taking 7 threes a night and has had to step up with Jalen Green hurt and now Devin Booker hurt. So yeah, his stock is obviously up. I just don't think Phoenix is moving him. I mentioned Colin Sexton in the offseason as well. I would say that his stock is probably up as well, just a little bit. Sexton this year is averaging 15 points, shooting 49% from the field, 36% from 3, and 87% from the free throw line. He's currently dealing with an injury right now with his thigh, but he has played 21 games this year for the Charlotte Hornets, and I've really liked him as a spark plug in and out of the starting lineup, starting games when LaMelo Ball is out, but then coming off the bench when LaMelo Ball is healthy. He's just a solid combo guard off the bench. I don't think he gets moved. I honestly think Charlotte should just extend him at this point. We got our 4th stock up in a row, and that is Quentin Grimes of the Philadelphia 76ers. I thought there was a chance Quentin Grimes could get moved this year because he ended up just taking the qualifying offer from the Philadelphia 76ers in the offseason, which pretty much gave him a no trade clause. He's making $8.7 million this year. I think this is a nice home in Philly. He's been basically their 2nd or 3rd best offensive player this year because Joel Embiid has not been reliable in terms of his health or even his production. Paul George has been fine this year, but also another player that was banged up at the start of the year. VJ Edgecombe is starting to come back down to earth a little bit, and Jared McCain was hurt at the start of the year. So we know how good Tyrese Maxey has been. Quentin Grimes has been a really good number 2 to him at times, and he's a good player. I just don't know if Philadelphia is going to commit long-term money to him in the offseason when you're giving 70% of your cap space to Paul George and Joel Embiid. So maybe the Sixers just end up waiving and stretching Paul George at this point, and they can give enough money to Quentin Grimes. But I do wonder if Philadelphia is going to realize we're not going to be able to afford Quentin Grimes in the offseason. He's not going to be a restricted free agent anymore. We may as well capitalize on an asset at the trade deadline before we lose him for nothing in the offseason. But his stock is up. A similar player to Quentin Grimes is Cam Thomas from the same draft class that also signed the qualifying offer in the offseason, which basically means Cam Thomas has a no trade clause right now and can be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. I would say that Cam Thomas's stock has been down. Funny enough, the Brooklyn Nets have been a lot better of a team since Cam Thomas recently got hurt with his hamstring injury, and Cam Thomas is still an incredibly talented scorer, but if he and his agent want him to make the most money possible, I think he needs to get traded to a team that could be in the playoffs, where he could prove to the whole NBA landscape and all 29 other GMs that I could be a key contributor when it matters the most. I could play help defense. I can make the extra pass. I can run in transition, and I could do the dirty work rather than just being a score first guy, because if he's just going to be the score first guy in the second half for Brooklyn, I don't think there's going to be many suitors for him in the offseason. So in terms of just Brooklyn getting a good return for him, the stock is definitely down. They lost a lot of leverage with this 1-year deal. I still think it would be wise for them to move Cam Thomas and kind of go in a different direction. I mentioned RJ Barrett as well in that video before the year started because it felt like Toronto was trying to move RJ Barrett in the offseason. I'm honestly going to say RJ Barrett's stock has been up. The Toronto Raptors offense has been declining since RJ Barrett suffered a knee injury, and he's missed a decent amount of time. So he's played 17 games this year, but he's shooting 50% from the field, 35% from 3, 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And I feel like RJ Barrett has still been a really good third scoring option for this team alongside Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes. And he's somebody that can initiate the offense, that is not scared whatsoever of trying to create his own shot or get downhill, and is able to find an open man in the perimeter or in the dunker spot. And Toronto is definitely valuing that right now. So I'm going to say RJ Barrett's stock is up. I think also when you look at all the bad contracts in the NBA, you're not really looking at RJ's anymore. It's got 2 years left, $27 million this year, $29.5 million next year, and he's somebody that's still just 25 years old. I also mentioned Tyler Hero on the off chance that Miami did not get off off to a good start this year, and they've been playing well, and Tyler Hero does not sign an extension, which he hasn't so far. So Tyler Hero could be a free agent, not this offseason, but at the end of 2027. He only played 6 games this year, and I think he's looked the part in those 6 games. I don't think he gets traded unless they do formulate some type of Giannis trade, but I'm just going to go neutral stock for Tyler Hero. I don't think it's really changed at all if a trade ever materializes. And same with Fred VanVleet, who I talked about in the offseason. I'm going to go neutral as well. I only brought up Fred VanVleet because Houston may say, we want to go for it this year. The best way that we can go out and get somebody that can actually help us this year, since Fred VanVleet will not help them at all, is trading Fred VanVleet's $25 million. Now, he does have a $25 million player option next year. I'm sure most teams would be comfortable paying him that. It's just Fred VanVleet also has a de facto no trade clause with the extension he signed as well. So I'm just gonna say his stock is neutral. It's never gonna change this year because of the injury. I still wonder if Houston, who's 16-6, they're the 3 seed in the Western Conference, would look to trade away Fred VanVleet to maximize their potential this year, or are they just looking at OKC and saying, we don't really want to mess with that? I would say Anthony Simons' stock value has gone down in Boston. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's making a decent amount of money at $27 million, and this year he's now coming off the bench for the Boston Celtics. He's started 0 out of his 25 games. He's averaging 13 points, which is the lowest since the 2021 season. He's shooting 39% from 3, 43% from the field, and 48% on 2s. The defense hasn't been there. He's pretty much been the same player that he was in Portland, just in a scaled back role. He's had some really bad games lately shooting the ball against Washington, Toronto, and Milwaukee. Like, maybe a team would just take on the salary filler. He's still 26 years old, and honestly, Anthony Simons is maybe sometimes a similar player to somebody like Cam Thomas, so I think he still needs to prove to people that he could be a contributor on a serious team, maybe in the playoffs, to really get another big contract in this league. But I would say his stock has definitely been down. I also mentioned Derek White on the off chance that Boston did not have a good first half. It's been the opposite. They've been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. It's looking like Jason Tatum might come back this year. I would say Derek White's production maybe would give him a stock down, but I'm just going to go neutral with this one just because I don't think Boston is going to trade Derek White. They want him here when Jason Tatum returns. Another Chicago Bull I mentioned was Nikola Vucevic. I'm going to say that his stock is neutral. I don't think it's really changed. He's the same player that he's kind of been over the last year now. Vucevic has 1 year left on his contract. He's making around $21.5 million right now. So a team that acquired him at the deadline would pretty much have to pay a little bit less than half of that. He's averaging about 16 points this year, 9.5 rebounds, shooting 48% from the field, 38% from 3, and 79% from the free throw line. He's been an hot and cold player in the clutch this year. He's made some really big time shots, but also some boneheaded decisions. He's not a great rim protector, and we've known that for a while now. I don't think his stock has changed. Nobody really wants to trade for him, it seems like. And I mentioned 3 Bulls. The other one was Ayo Dosunmu. I'm going to say Ayo's stock has definitely been up. I feel like Chicago will move one of Dosunmu or Kobe White. I feel like they should move one of those two, especially if they're not going to re-sign both of them in the offseason. You might as well try to capitalize on any type of asset, and Dosunmu is having a really good year, making just $7.5 million, so it's an easy tradable contract. He's averaging 15 points, shooting 51% from the field, 47% from 3, 86% from the free throw line, basically all career highs across the board, still just 25 years old. I think he'd have a very strong market. So the one Laker I talked about in that video was Rui Hachimura. I'm going to say that Rui's stock has pretty much been neutral so far. I think we kind of know what Rui is at this point. He could still be a good 3-point shooter in a vacuum, but when you ask him to create his own shot, it's not going to work out well too much. He could still be a solid defender as well with his frame and size. He's making $18 million this year. I do wonder if the Lakers try to make some type of aggressive move at the deadline. Would it involve Rui Hachimura, who has obviously more trade value than a Maxi Kleber or a Gabe Vincent? Or are they just thinking that they could get a lesser tier player but attach those bad contracts in Kleber and Vincent and have Hachimura still be a part of their rotation? One of the bigger names that I talked about in the offseason was Lauri Markkanen. Oh yeah, his stock is up. You really couldn't have more of a stock up than this guy right now. Markkanen had 2 down years, it felt like, in 2025 and in 2024, compared to his breakout year with the Jazz in 2023, where he was an all-star, averaged 25.5 points, and won the most improved player award. This year, he's averaging 2 more points per game than he did in that 2023 season, 27.5 points per game on 47, 36, 91 splits, 6.5 rebounds. He is getting to the rim with ease, finishing around the rim at a very high rate, 55% on 2s now. And the 28-year-old would have a very strong trade market if the Jazz did want to trade him. Now, Lauri does have a very large contract, $46 million this year, 46 million next year, 49.8 million in 2028, and then 53.5 million in 2029. It's a massive deal, but right now he's playing like he's worth every bit of that contract. And I do wonder what direction the Jazz are going to go in. But for their return on investment for Lauri Markkanen, there's a good chance they would get quite the haul in February. I mentioned Miles Bridges in that video as well. I'll say that Miles Bridges' stock is pretty much neutral. I don't think it's really changed too much. In their first 25 games, Miles Bridges has been available for the Charlotte Hornets this year. He's averaging 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Not as efficient as you would like, but I could see some type of desperate team trading for him at the deadline. And then another wild card I threw out there was Pascal Siakam of the Indiana Pacers. His stock would be up in my opinion. I think Pascal Siakam is still playing like an all-star this year. I thought maybe there was a wild card chance that he could end up getting traded if the Pacers realizing they could be selling high at this point. And honestly, nothing's crazy anymore because Luka Doncic got traded. So Siakam's averaging 24, 7, and 4. I still think it's a very small chance he could get traded. Maybe he could, but I feel like the Pacers are just looking forward to 2027 when Halliburton is back with Spicy P. So the other guys that I think could get traded this year that are bigger names, there's a bunch of stock downs. You have LaMelo Ball of the Charlotte Hornets, who's once again been in and out of the Charlotte Hornets lineup, dealing with those ankle issues. He's shooting just 38% from the field this year, 28% from 3 in 16 games. He's been inefficient. He's been not reliable out there, and it feels like Concanipple has kind of passed him as maybe the guy the Charlotte Hornets want to build around going forward. Ever since the Memphis Grizzlies traded away Desmond Bane and extended Jaren Jackson Jr., we thought maybe there was a chance they would ever move Ja Morant, especially when there was the whole Taylor Jenkins fiasco last year. I mean, Ja Morant's stock value would definitely be down at this point, averaging 18 points, 7.5 assists, shooting 35% from the field, 16% from 3 in 12 games. We've noticed a dip in the athleticism as well. They would be selling low at this point, like Charlotte. I think James Harden is emerging as one of the more interesting trade deadline candidates this year, just because James Harden is 36 years old. The Clippers have been a disaster this year. They're 6-19, the second worst record in the Western Conference, but Harden has been really solid for the Clippers this year. 26 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. He's playing like an all-star level that he was last year and has kept the Clippers alive at some points this year. He can only do so much because the rest of the roster is an absolute disaster, but his stock value would be up. I do think he's going to end up getting traded because I don't think this Clippers team is going to make a run. I could briefly mention Trae Young as well. I would say that his stock is just neutral at this point. The only reason you can really bring up Trae Young in trade discussions is because he's a free agent at the end of the year. He and the Atlanta Hawks front office did not get an extension done in the last offseason, so maybe there's a reason why they could think about trading Trae Young, but he's only played 5 games this year. He wasn't good in those 5 games, but I do think with Atlanta being competitive, especially a lot better than the Clippers, the Grizzlies, and the Hornets, I think they want to see Trae Young back and see what this team can look at its fullest potential. I would say Anthony Davis's stock value has gone down as well. I'm kind of upset at myself for not putting him in that video just because what are the chances that Nico Harrison could get fired? What are the chances that Dallas could not have been good this year? I feel like those chances were higher than I thought. Anthony Davis this year has been banged up once again, and I do feel like if Dallas trades him, which I feel like we're heading towards that point, they're not going to get a Luka Doncic type return or anything close to it. I would also say Zion Williamson's stock is down as well. Once again, Zion Williamson has been hurt this year. He's only played 10 games in the 2026 season, currently dealing with an abductor injury. I feel like this is Derek Queen's team at this point. And I guess the last guy we should talk about, Giannis Antetokounmpo. There is a higher chance that Giannis could get traded this year than we initially thought. Obviously, Giannis's stock would be up. He's once again playing like an MVP caliber player. So I guess you could actually say his stock is neutral because he's the same Giannis that he's been for pretty much the last decade. And I do wonder if he would be the biggest name moved at this year's deadline. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you agree or disagree with anything I said, please let me know down below. And maybe there's a player that you think could get traded this year that I didn't mention. Also let me know down below. Maybe it's one of the Sacramento Kings. Maybe it's a different Pelican, and let me know. You can let me know also if their stock is up or down or not. If you did enjoy it, appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Subscribe if you were not already. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.